His tools were simple: a steel-nibbed pen, an inkwell, blank panels of paper 5 feet long and 4 feet wide. From September 1949 to March 1950, Professor Horan's desk became a kind of altar. Beneath the steady glow of a drafting lamp, he dipped his pen again and again and again into the midnight ink. Like a prayer in motion, Professor Horan inscribed the names of Kentucky's fallen World War II heroes, one by one, line by line, county by county. Not just a list, but a litany, carrying the weight of our state's grief. And among those 10,000 names is Franklin Sousley. Franklin, a native of Hilltop, Kentucky, helped tend the tobacco fields and care for his family after his father died. He graduated high school at 17 and soon after became a Marine. Franklin was just a boy, 18 when he shipped out. And by 19, he was halfway around the world, crawling through the black sands of Iwo Jima. His unit, Easy Company, landed on that small island on February 19th, 1945. Franklin and the rest of the 28th Regiment spent the next 4 days trudging inland as curtains of rain and bullets pelted them. But on the morning of February 23rd, the rain cleared and the clouds lifted, revealing Mount Suribachi, black, volcanic, scarred, looming over the beach which the Marines had landed on just days before. That morning, a patrol was sent up the mountain with a small American flag and a simple command: if you make it to the top, put it up. And miraculously, they did. The American flag rose for the first time over Iwo Jima, and the island erupted with cheers instead of artillery. But the Japanese held the tunnels at Suribachi, and they swarmed the celebrating Marines with gunfire. Still, it was over in just a few minutes and no loss of American life. And the flag remained standing. Witnessing what happened from afar, the Secretary of the Navy was so deeply moved, he requested to take the flag as a souvenir. And after Easy Company took it down, they were not satisfied. They bled for that flag. So the regimental commander gave the order to replace it. And this time he said, make it bigger. A new patrol of 6 men was sent up the charred mountain face with a replacement flag, bigger, bolder, and renewed in purpose after being salvaged from a sinking boat at Pearl Harbor. And what happened next was unceremonious, just Marines completing another task. 2 of them found a heavy pipe and dragged it over the rubble to a third, who was holding the neatly folded flag with reverence and resolve. Then together, the 6 young men quietly began to raise the flag for a second time. And catching the moment out of the corner of his eye, photographer Joe Rosenthal quickly turned his lens on instinct, worried that he would miss it. In 1/400th of a second, with barely a chance to look, the shutter clicked, No framing, no retakes, just the raw contrast between the everlasting glory of that image and the brevity of the lives that made it monumental. And then it was over. The young man piled rocks around the base of the pole and went back to work, unaware that their impromptu ritual would become one of the most recognizable images of the world, one for the ages. 6 Marines, tired, sweaty, caked in muck and ash of the battlefield, caught mid-motion raising the American flag. And one of them, reaching above his head to steady the very center of the pole, is 19-year-old Franklin Sousley of Hilltop, Kentucky. He wrote to his mom, "Look for my picture. I helped put the flag up." But 1 month later, Franklin was cut down in battle by a sniper's bullet. Franklin and his fellow Marines didn't know they'd never get to see that photo. They didn't even know it was being taken at the time. In that moment, they only knew the weight of the flag, of sacrifice and hope, the feeling of the rough pipe against their palms, the motion of lifting, of raising a flag, a thing worth holding on to, an ideal worth dying for. Today, a statue immortalizing that moment stands in Arlington, Virginia, atop a granite mount with an inscription reading, "Uncommon valor was a common virtue." Uncommon valor was a common virtue for that generation. These lives and these moments, the raw and deeply human ones, born not of spectacle, but of calling, are not meant to fade. They are meant to be preserved, revered, immortalized, not only for what and who they were, but what they ask of us now, to remember. Because while those young heroes believed some things must be defended, they believed even fiercer that some things must never, ever happen again. That is what they died for, to end the extermination of people condemned to death in the name of racial and ideological purity. That is what they died for, to restore democracies. They fought against regimes that first burned books, then tore down truth, then stoked fear and hatred, then ripped families apart, then torched temples of worship, then dropped fire from the sky, then rounded up the Jews, the Roma, the gay, and the disabled, and put them on trains destined for death. Some 12 million perished. But in the death camps, millions who would survive waited behind barbed wire, stripped of their humanity, but clinging to their personhood with hope, not knowing that deliverance would come in the form of boys in Idaho, Kansas, and Kentucky, crawling through the mud to get to them, to liberate them. When the world was splintering, these brave souls who we remember today were the hinge of history, defending the idea that every human life has worth, no matter how it worships, or where it's lived, or who it loves. With this beautiful, newly renovated memorial, the names of Kentucky's fallen heroes, as inscribed by Professor Horn, from World War II, the Korean and Vietnam Wars, and subsequent military service that used to hang on the walls in this hallowed hall, are now etched into metal, anchored in stone, and placed right outside for all to clearly see every hour, day or night. And those names out there, that is a roll call of the righteous. We carve names in places we pass so legacy meets us where we live, so we can look on with reverence for those righteous souls who made the ultimate sacrifice as the greatest generation. And from this time forward, I ask our students, as they pass these monuments, to stop, pause, pick a name, perhaps from your home county. Say a prayer, reflect in gratitude. And just beyond those etched names, another piece of history stands. A marker strong in presence and purpose, acknowledging a story we must also carry. Long before Memorial Coliseum was built, this ground was home to Adamstown, a vibrant black community whose students helped build the very foundation of this university and this city. Families lived there. They worshiped there. And they watched football games on porches across from the stadium they weren't allowed to enter. And among them, Pierre Whiting, known to students as Dean Whiting. He's believed to be the first African American hired by the University of Kentucky. He carried water and mortar in the construction of the main building in 1888. And ultimately, he became its keeper for 57 years. He was a fixture of our campus, a witness to our history, a contributor to it, at a time when so many were excluded from its telling. The memorial that now honors Adamstown and Mr. Whiting is not a correction of history, but an extension of our commitment to fully tell it. Because love of place requires truth, and remembering requires courage, not just to honor the valor of those who serve, but to face the realities of who and what was neglected along the way. As Professor Horan made his way through the seemingly unending list of the fallen, he came across a name that he knew by heart. Corporal John Horan, lost over the Adriatic Sea, 20 years of age, never recovered. And yet, just as he had done thousands of times before, Professor Horan dipped his steel-nibbed pen in the midnight ink and wrote the name of his eldest son. With no greater flourish, no heavier hand than any other. He knew they were all some mother and father's child. They were all sons of Kentucky. That is the quiet truth of this memorial. That what binds these names is not how they died, but how they were loved, how they were honored, and how we will remember them. And love and duty, when bound together, become something holy. During Memorial Coliseum's 1950 dedication, President Donovan remarked, "This is a house. This is Kentucky's Coliseum. It belongs to the people." For 160 years, we have served Kentucky and her people with deep fidelity to our mission, through wars and recessions, pandemics and deep divide, we remain standing. We've helped our Commonwealth get healthier, wealthier, and wiser. And we will continue to advance that mission because that is what we were created to do. That is our enduring promise as Kentucky's university. That is the power of people coming together, united by common purpose, to do uncommonly good and important things. And today, with gratitude to the General Assembly, the governor, and many donors who made essential funds available for this project, we rededicate this hallowed place and call on the next generation to cherish and extend a precious legacy. Thank you.